brown cow. Brown chicken, 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 brown cow. This is fun. Brown chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken, brown cow.
Welcome to Brown Chicken Brown Cow Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monkey McAnee. I'm really excited to be here because I do have my co-host here with me. That is
Jessie. Hi, everyone. So glad to be here. So glad to have you here.
Oh my gosh, you had a hard time getting here today, didn't you?
I really did. My car broke down. It was crazy. I was on the freeway. The car just like exploded into flames.
And you jumped from the car.
I did.
And you ran here.
I had like a litter of puppies and kittens,
puppies
and then
and kittens.
like 12. I want to say about 12 children in the car.
You saved orphans
them.
and kittens and puppies.
Yeah, all just like in my arms, and I just walked here, but I didn't have a leg, so I just
no
but
leg.
I'm here.
You hopped.
Yeah, I hopped. I just kind of dragged.
These are cute kittens, though. That's nice.
They're really cute.
This one's a little singed.
Yeah, sorry, that one. You know, that's Joe. He's unlucky.
He's an unlucky cat.
So.
But yeah, so your car fell apart on the way home.
Yeah,
so
no, it did.
We did the show, so that was fun. And then you limped it here.
So much fun. Yeah, it was awesome.
So. Yeah, this was my birthday weekend.
Yeah, did you have a good birthday weekend?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I had a great time. Had food, went to shows.
That's
went
good
to the,
that you had food sometime in the weekend.
Here in Sacramento, there's a local comedy shop. It's called the Comedy Spot.
Yes, I used to perform there.
Yeah, we've both been on stage there.
Yeah.
And we went to the LGBTQ comedy night.
Nice.
And it was entertaining. It was different.
That's awesome.
They had some really good performers on there, a lot of local performers, and one gentleman from San Francisco. So it was a really good show, and it was sold out. They kept telling us that. They're so excited, it's sold out. So I'm like, all right. So exposure and people are interested, and it was a really, really nice time.
Good.
But speaking of a good time, we have a guest today.
We do, and we have a really exciting topic lined up. We're going to talk about BDSM and Kink.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to talk about that. And our guest is the amazing Rebecca Blanton, a.k.a. Auntie Vice.
Auntie Vice. Her bio goes on forever. Amazing stuff.
She really, I've known her for a while, but I didn't know that she was this much of a badass. This is really amazing. She's done some cool stuff. Do we want to kind of get into it?
Well, we can get into it with her, or you and I can bounce it back and forth for a second.
Let's just talk about her.
Yeah, let's talk about her
the entire time.
Sorry, Rebecca, we're not bringing you on. We just had you. You're just on hold. You can just sit over there for a moment. Yeah. So, for example, she has a PhD, an ABD in political psychology.
I don't even quite know what that means.
That's a lot of
so
letters,
amazing.
really.
That's a lot of fancy terms. And I guess she went on to teach at Baruch. Is that how that's pronounced?
Sure.
It's so fancy I don't even know how to pronounce it.
In
John Jay colleges, and then she became a nonpartisan policy researcher for the state, which is so cool. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, she's already a badass, getting involved in politics.
And the executive director for the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls.
Yeah, and now she works as a freelance writer, which is the obvious career path from there.
Well, of course.
So cool. So I guess she works on the needs of women and veterans, and her work has served as guidelines for the U.S. Department of Labor and has been used by the DMC and Michelle Obama to create policies. That is so cool. So she's doing some good work out there. She's a warrior for women and girls.
That is fantastic, because nothing I've done ever made it to Michelle Obama.
Yeah, I tried, but no matter how many times I attached notes to a rock with a rubber band and threw it onto the White House lawn, it just never made it to her.
Really?
Yeah.
I love you, Michelle.
Yeah, I drew her some pictures too.
Pictures, oh,
just
that's
like us
sweet.
holding hands,
Aww.
with her really strong arms.
Well, she does have, Michelle Obama had, ripped.
She was ripped.
Yeah. So I think it's time.
Yeah, I think we should bring her on.
Introducing Rebecca Blanton.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on, and thanks for the sweet introduction.
Yeah. Oh, you heard all that?
Dear.
That's awkward.
Now I'm embarrassed. I'm actually
blushing a little bit.
A little blush.
We're adding one hit to the blushometer, I think.
One, great.
For those of you who don't know, we have a blushometer. It's actually a part of our Patreon. Anytime Monkey blushes, it's a point on the blushometer. And
yes.
There's a paddle for every.
A paddle. Wait.
Oh, we discussed that. We're adding that.
We're adding more things to. I get paddled at the end of the show now. Great. That's more blushing for me.
I'm so sorry, Rebecca. I'm derailing the conversation.
This is what we do. We
Not
just derail and we come back.
Not at all. Anytime I can encourage paddling at the end of a show, it's good.
We're so glad to have you on. Obviously, you just heard us massaging your ego and singing your praises.
Yeah.
I got to say, you just haven't done enough with your life.
No, I'm really quite a slacker.
Get out of the house more, jeez.
Seriously. Well, this is so cool. You have an amazing background. Can you tell us more about, so you worked for the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and what it does?
Okay, so when I came out to California to be a nonpartisan researcher, I lucked out and was assigned to do this report on women veterans that got a lot of traction. And from there was recruited to do to be the director of the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. Commission is like the commission in many states. The first commission came out in the 60s under Kennedy, and these are organizations, they're state agencies that focus on the needs of women and girls and try to better develop policies to help different groups of women and girls. In 2012 in California, the commission, which had been established in '68, was shut down with all the draconian budget cuts, and Speaker Perez at the time found money in the assembly budget to reboot it. They wanted it to be more dynamic, younger generation, blah, blah, blah. They brought me on as the executive director, and the work I did there, we did a lot of work to help women veterans, women who had been in prison and were coming back into the community. I focused a lot on girls in poverty and that type of stuff. I left in 2014. They brought on another executive director and decided to go back to their old direction, which is one of the reasons I quit, is when the board voted to go back to the old direction of just kind of supporting the Women's Caucus. It wasn't something I felt that I could successfully do. And so now they've done stuff like you get the license plate with the pink ribbon on it, and they donate a percentage of that to breast cancer research. They're looking for somebody to make a Sally Ride statue. And basically they support the Women's Caucus in the legislature right now.
I see. So yeah, a little different from the more hands-on work that you seemed like you were doing.
Yeah, I really came in and I wanted to focus on the most disenfranchised groups with the idea that you've got to stabilize those groups first before you start worrying about things like getting into C-suites. If we have women who are coming out of prison who can't reconnect with their kids, who have no drug rehab or anything that they can access in a successful manner, worrying if somebody gets into a C-suite job seemed a lot less important to me.
C-suite, I'm not really familiar with that. Can you clarify?
That's like a CEO, CFO, all the corporate offices, the high-level positions. And so when you do work around women's policy, it's a very broad scope. And I was focused on an area that they were not quite as interested in focusing on.
Right. Wow. Well, it sounds like you did some amazing work during the time that you were there, and I applaud your integrity. That sounds like just such important work, and it sounds like it was probably really challenging but rewarding. Would you say?
Yeah, exactly. I'm very pleased with the work that I did as part of the commission there. And I think we did some really excellent stuff. And, I did what I could do while I was there. And when I couldn't do that work anymore, I redirected my career.
Oof.
Wow.
Speaking of redirecting your career, you have a few books under your belt. Let's start with Love Letters to a Unicorn. What is this about?
So that was the first one I put out, and that was kind of on a whim, which was also how I ended up getting my PhD.
Just a whim.
Like, oh, this sounds fun. Let's go do it.
Let's go get a PhD just for fun.
Like you do on a Tuesday.
As you do. So when I left the commission and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, I got very sick, and it was eventually diagnosed as lupus, but I was having a very hard time doing regular 9 to 5 or anything like that, but I could write, and I've always been able to write. So they had the whole boon with 50 Shades of Grey, and then the first movie was going to come out like the following February, and everybody's talking about BDSM, and you have all the commentary on, well, 50 Shades isn't real BDSM, it's an abusive relationship, and all the kind of standard commentary. And so I had a collection of essays over time that I had posted in different places and that I ended up developing into what became Love Letters to a Unicorn. And when I was having beta readers go through it, one of the comments that kept coming back is, well, we want to know what actually goes on in BDSM. You know, you need to write a porn chapter. You need to write a porn chapter. So I added a porn chapter.
As you do.
Well, you know,
As you do.
Toss
I
it.
add porn chapters to all of my technical documentation, but I change all the text to white, and I minimize it down to like 1-point font,
There you go.
so that, you know, somebody's
Sneaky.
typing in, doing a word search, and they come across cunnilingus or something, and I don't see it. So
Maybe you don't word search for cunnilingus.
Well,
Maybe that's
generally,
in a technical document.
Yeah, generally that's not in technical documentation. So I'm pretty safe. You're welcome. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't help but derail things like that. I'm
Exactly.
in my other world. I'm actually a technical writer, so that's why that's
His
relevant
other
to me.
world.
Yeah, my other world.
Big
So
ups.
Your other- Yeah, so, and I mean, and you speak of stuff like that, it was one of the most fun things I had. So I'm sitting here and I'm doing it I still draw on my academic background, and there's an index to the book. And I have to say, as somebody whose work had recently caught the attention of Michelle Obama, for the next publication to come out, and the index literally goes from Reagan to rim job,
whoa.
I'm kind of proud of that.
Can you write just like a memoir, and I want it to be titled From Reagan to Rim Job? I would love that. That would be great. Cool. Yeah. So it seems like you have an amazing background.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Love Letters was kind of an academic piece talking about how BDSM and kink relate to feminism for me, answering a lot of questions around how do you establish boundaries, what does this mean to different people, and it was actually fairly successful. It was a finalist for the Golden Flogger in 2016 and for the International Leather Association's Nonfiction Book of the Year.
Oh, the Golden Flogger. Fantastic. Oh, dear.
Oh, I thought you
Fun
said the
little
Golden
award if you can
Blogger.
win
No.
The Flogger sounds way more fun.
Yes, the floggers. Delightful. Well, you know, Rebecca, we need to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have more things to talk about, including other additional delicious things like golden floggers.
And hopefully it won't be in this voice.
Excellent. I'll see you on the other side of the commercial.
We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors. Hi, guys. This is Sean Monkey McAney, Monkey for short. You know what? If you're in town here in Sacramento, or if you're anywhere, you need to check out Midtown Moxies. They are a Sacramento burlesque troupe that is blowing my doors off. They are amazing. Generally, they have 2 shows a month. One called the Midtown Moxies and one called Moxie Crush. You need to go to midtownmoxies.com or find them on Facebook. They are amazing. They're beautiful. They're funny as hell. Trust me, I wouldn't be advertising with them if I didn't believe in them. They are freaking fantastic. Enough said. Go to midtownmoxies.com.
All right, and we're back. So again, we're talking to Rebecca Blanton, and we're just talking about how she has just such an amazing background working in politics, and then also a background in writing, including BDSM and Kink. So we were talking about you having a couple of books under your belt, and you've also done the big workbook for submissives. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I started teaching kink and BDSM a couple of years ago, going around to the country to the different conventions, going into play spaces, bookstores, and talking about kink and submission from the perspective of a submissive. One of the classes that got a lot of attention, and I have a lot of people come through, was Deepening Your Submission, which was really geared towards people who had tried submission, who were interested in it, but wanted to take it to the next level, or who had been doing it for a while and kind of felt stuck, like they kept doing the same thing. So it was kind of suggestions of exercises and writing and getting in touch with your body and figuring out what you wanted submission to mean to you, how this was going to be in your life, your concepts, your thoughts around it, and eventually developed that into the workbook, which is a set of essays and research assignments, homework assignments, body exercises to figure out what you want your submission to be.
Wow, that's awesome. That would be really hot if your Dom made you work your way through that workbook. That'd be really, really cool. Wow.
I want you to do pages 5
Right?
through 15 tonight, dude.
Have like a hot Dom teacher professor thing going on.
All right, now you're the one flushing. Calm down. Come on, just get the fan.
Sorry, I just went on a
went to
little,
a space
little
there. That was-
tangent. Subspace.
And it's actually designed to work with whatever your D type is on that if you are in a couple. or a polycule or whatever, where somebody's the dominant. So, because it starts out with exploring your ideas of your idealized version of submission and your idealized dom, and then going into the reality of it. Because for a lot of people, there's a disconnect. We have what we fantasize about, we have what we think it should be, and what we should be. But what that is, when it looks like in reality and how that manifests, is very different.
Right.
And so to have those discussions with your partner of, well, this is really what I thought it would be, this is really what I want it to be, this is what it is, where is the gap, how do we get closer to what we need?
Right, yeah, I guess more of like a practical application of those fantasies too. That's very
And the book finishes with 36 questions you should ask your kinky partner.
36 questions you should ask your kinky partner.
Can I hear a couple of those?
Sure. Tell me about a time that a scene failed and how you handled it.
Nice, I like that.
Let's see, what else is in there? Tell me about your first kink experience.
Oh, that's a good one.
Tell me about what you masturbated to last time. What was the fantasy you masturbated
The madam
to?
is gesturing to me as if I need to answer these questions. That's not going to happen. Those are some great questions. I really like that. This sounds like an awesome workbook.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and the feedback I've gotten has been pretty good on it. So
That's very cool. Where can one purchase these things, by the way?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, both of those are online. Barnes and Noble, it looks like the workbook will be in stores this fall. And then I have the workbook in a number of independent bookstores, including Wicked Grounds in San Francisco.
Nice.
Wicked Grounds. Yeah, actually, that's where I first started selling some of my calendars years ago.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, my steampunk stuff.
Full circle. Small world.
Well,
There you go.
Wicked Grounds.
Yeah,
is
Mira's
great
awesome.
people.
I love her.
Yeah. Are you working on anything new? Any new books or floggers or?
All that good stuff. Yeah, so I'll be presenting at Catalyst Con this month in Los Angeles.
That's awesome.
Which is a convention that focuses on gender and sexuality, and it's more on the academic end of it. I'm hosting a panel with 3 trans women to discuss the idea of male privilege and how that affects people who are trans.
Oh, that's a really
that's
cool
a great
panel.
topic, yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that comes up a lot in discussions, and you have the group that are called trans exclusionary radical feminists, or TERFs, who don't believe that trans women can be quote unquote real women because they've experienced male privilege. So this provides a forum for people who are trans to actually give feedback of what their real experience has been, and I tried to pull together women with a very different set of backgrounds, including one who goes back and forth between living as a woman and living as a man.
Just like our guest,
Yeah.
Jessica.
Just like Jessica,
And-
yeah. I've heard that discussion a lot about that schism between the communities and how people have a lot of ideas and like you said, not really a woman because you've experienced at some point male privilege and stuff like that. So to me, it's a very interesting discussion, and it's a really good exercise to think about. There is a difference. There's a point when things do change for you, and so you're experiencing life in a different way, but you're still probably having to go through a lot of the maybe even just a different set of discrimination or looked upon as a different level versus even women who are born women who have to have that level of understanding and privilege. So there's a lot of different things to unbox there. So it's a very interesting topic.
It's a great discussion.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a hard one to have because people get very emotional over it.
Understandably so.
And I had proposed the panel to the organizers because in my 20s, when I was going through trying to figure out gender and identity and all of that, and we didn't actually have a term for somebody who was agendered, people had suggested that I was trans, and so I looked at that, and the discussion of, well, there would be a real privilege if I was a man going into the career that I was looking at. That would, as a white man, would be incredibly privileged, and that was actually part of those discussions for me. So I wanted to have it with another group of people to see if it played in at all in their experiences and give voice to some of that.
That's very cool. Yeah, that sounds like a fascinating panel. So so obviously you've got a big background in kink. I'm wondering, since you are kind of an expert, what advice to curious newbies you would give What advice would you give to curious newbies about kink?
A couple things. I would say look for a lot of different sources of information. There are hundreds and hundreds of blogs and writings on FetLife and books and podcasts that discuss kink. And because it's done so differently for people, and there's lots of ways to do it right and lots of ways to do it wrong, look for many sources of input because you've got to figure out what it means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great piece of advice. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody tells you they have the right way of doing kink, kind of run for the hills.
Yeah, that's
This is
good.
a big red flag. If they think there's only one way to do this, that just indicates could be a lot of other issues down the line.
Now, say somebody wants to try to find a community, because you know, we have blogs, we have podcasts, we have all these things out there, in FetLife. But let's say somebody's trying to find a community, trying to find that foothold to meet people in the community. How do you suggest they go about that?
So most cities, small and large, have different kink groups. FetLife is one place that lists a lot of events.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on
perfect.
Fet and you have a profile, look for the events in your area. BDSMevents.com is also another calendar, and you don't have to be a member. Anybody can find that.
BDSMevents.com. Sunday.
I want to find out what's happening on Sunday.
We bring the
Today is
pain.
Sunday.
Yeah. So I would say check those out. Go to a munch. There's a lot of groups that host kind of newbie nights.
Mm-hmm.
In San Francisco, they host one at the Citadel once a month for newcomers, kind of to explain dungeon etiquette. In Sacramento, there's a number of different groups that host kind of introductory nights, tasting events, munches for geared towards newbies and stuff. And I would say check those out as kind of an entree into the community, and then start looking for what you want to explore and keep an open mind. I think one of the things that I've seen happen with a lot of people is you get into kink and then you think you have to take on a role right away,
Mm-hmm.
right? And women tend to go towards the submissive side, men towards the dominant, just because society, that's how we direct people.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to get stuck into that and think that there's one way to be a sub, one way to be a slave, one way to be a dom. I'd say keep it open, explore, and realize it's going to change over time.
Right.
You may start in one role and really enjoy it, and that doesn't mean 3 years down the line that's where you're going to be.
Yeah, I love that.
Now, you know, I consider myself, or rather one of my partners considers me, vanilla with sprinkles, right? And that basically is a term out of the concept that I apparently date. I'm polyamorous, so I date a number of women who are self-assured, know what they want, and that's inevitably, not all the time, but brings them to wanting different things in their sexual life. So I've actually been to a couple of different munches here in Sacramento, like you said. There's a munch in a polyamory and kink community.
Mm-hmm. A lot of overlap there.
There's a lot of overlap there, yeah. And then I went to a munch just a couple of weeks, no, I think it was last week, as a matter of fact. And just, hey, I know Madam just was shocked that I went to a munch. So if you're looking for a community, it is out there, and there are people out there who are more than willing to help you understand it and not take you down a bad path. So going online and looking for resources is fantastic, but you know, if you're ready and interested, definitely look for the munches and online events so that you can start learning more about it from people who have been in the community. But you know what, Rebecca, it's time for us to take another little break.
Works for me.
Okay, so we'll be right back. Jessica, do you want to go move your car?
Jessica.
Why did I call you Jessica? Jessa Lee. Why did I call you
Jeez.
Jessica?
Sorry, Dad. I'll move it.
Sorry, Dad. Well, it's smoking over there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. I should probably put out the fire. We'll be back.
Now I know that you have a life figured out. You got your ways and you got your job. But I think that you should make room for me. It's a guarantee. guarantee it'll be as easy as breathing with me. You walked into my life so hesitantly, all tip and all toe, but I'm ready to go. I try to get you to come out at night, but you just won't bite. No, you just won't bite, and I can't stop talking to you. I try to back off, but you pull me right back into you. I can't get you out of my mind. Man, I'm waiting on you, boy, but you're taking your sweet time. Oh, no, no. Oh, now you make this seem like I'm pulling teeth, all twist and all turn. Now we're starting to bleed. Pursuing you is like a full-time job. You're all talk and no walk, but I'm just trying a job, and I can't seem to get through to you that I'd give up my world just to spend some time alone with you. You act like I'm making you walk over glass. This boy wouldn't know flirting if they bit him in the ow, and I can't stop talking to you. Try to back off, but you pull me right back into you. I can't get you out of my mind. Man, waiting on you, boy, but you're taking your sweet time. No, no. I said, take your time, baby, take your time. I said, take your time, baby, take your time. I said, take your time, baby, take your time. I said, take your time. Oh, no, 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 no. And I don't wanna give up on you, 'cause there's something there. I know you feel it too, but I need you to fight for me like I fight for you, baby. Why can't you see that I can't stop talking to you? Oh, I try to back off, but you pull me right back into you. I can't get you out of my mind. Man, I'm waiting on you, boy, but you take your sweet time. Oh, take your sweet time. Take your time.
Welcome back. That was the amazing Samantha Sharp. She's a musician here in Sacramento. She's making waves. She's getting a lot of gigs. Oh my God, it's almost impossible not to see where she is in town.
Gigs everywhere.
Gigs, and
Mega
more gigs.
gigs.
Yeah,
Gigabytes.
so your car is now on fire, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's fine. I was cold.
You were cold. Let's see here. Professor, do we have any sticks for marshmallows?
Little roasty.
Little roasty.
The roasting, yeah.
Yeah,
you know.
I think
Also propane torch. But
And-
that might be redundant.
a propane torch on top of the firing car.
Shit, guys. All
Wow.
right, this is a lot.
We're trying to melt it down. I think that's what we're going for.
Hey, Rebecca, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Great. So I think I'm going to milk you for some more advice, actually, since you're a kink expert. I'm wondering what cautions you suggest for newbies for, I don't know, personal interactions with kink or safety or legal concerns or any of that good stuff.
Okay, a couple of things I would say is when you're going to a new munch, message the leaders of that group or any type of meetup group in kink and polyamory to say, hey, I'm new. And that way they can look out for you, say hi, introduce you. It makes it a lot friendlier and a lot less intimidating. I would say, don't feel that you need to lock yourself into one role or with one person immediately. This is new. You're going to discover a lot about yourself and what you like and what you don't like. So stay open to things and don't feel like you have to create yourself as this perfect dom, this perfect sub, this perfect slave immediately.
You know what I've been meditating on ever since we had our episode with Jessica is I've been meditating on, I feel like labels should serve you. You should not be serving labels. It's like they're meant for that, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So I like that piece of advice. That's great.
Yeah, I think anybody who's been in the community for a while has seen somebody come in and they've latched on really hard to an identity. And 6 months in, a year in, it doesn't fit, but they feel a need to keep doing that because they've latched onto it. And it's okay to let that stuff go and explore and become who you are. If you're meeting somebody, meet them in public for the first time. I mean, basic things like dating, like, if somebody goes, yeah, I'm really into this, why don't you come over to my house and you don't know them personally?
Don't do that.
Right.
I know so many people who do that.
I've seen so many people get, especially men, well, why don't you want to come over? Don't you trust me? And it's like, no, I don't even know you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Of course not. You're creepy. If you're trying a new type of play, look up the safety stuff around it. Like, if you want to get into water sports, do a little research to find out what's safe and what's not. If you want to get into impact play, look up where you can and cannot hit and what kind of strikes can be done so you have an idea. And this goes for whatever side of the slash you're on.
Because water sports are very dangerous, because when you get the horses in the water and you're trying to get them to swim in polo,
it's slippery.
It's very hard.
You need the right jet ski. If you don't have one, it's just like you're fucked.
Exactly. But yeah, whatever side of the slash you're on, you need to know the safety precautions. If you're being tied up and you're the bottom, you want to be able to give feedback of, watching somebody do whatever and going, no, that tie is not going to work there. That's going to put too much pressure on whatever nerve point. And because it's your responsibility to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if you don't know the safety precautions.
Lots of communication.
Yeah, lots of communication.
Do you have any thoughts on good references for people to check out if they're getting into it?
Yeah, two of my favorites are the submissiveguide.com and dominantguide.com. They're websites that are run by people who are established in the community. They vet every resource they put up on there. It is all information, learning, no dating, no porn or anything like that. Really geared towards informative stuff. Kink University, which is online, and through kink.com, has some great education, and it's very wide-reaching. Everything from how do you handle the emotional components to it, to some technical skills, to personal advice. I like them a lot. And then kinkly.com maintains a list of vetted blogs, and they rank them in terms of popularity, in terms of advice, and they break them down into BDSM, kink, sex, and they have a huge number of resources on their site and will direct you out to other people who specialize in your area.
That's so cool. Thank you. That's awesome. It's a whole wide world of just, there's so many things.
There's so much. You could do this 24/7 for the rest of your life and still not touch on everything out there.
Oh, I bet. And even this month, our month of kink is not going to touch anywhere near close to what's all the depths that we could probably dive into this. But let's talk about something a little different here. What, dive in? What?
Yeah,
you tied up? You can get tied up in all the topics?
About depth and I don't know. We're good.
Oh, geez. She went off on her own little world there again. She's blushing again.
No one's blushing. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Wow, no one's defensive. You're defensive.
Tell us more about okay, so here's a little thing. Sometimes my lips don't work, and it's quite interesting. Anyway, so tell us more about erotic romance.
So when I wrote the porn chapter for Love Letters, I had put it in there because people had suggested it, and that's the chapter that got noticed. Apparently I have a knack for writing porn. Who knew?
Congratulations.
Well, and it got to the point where Vince Bucci, who runs the Boochcast out of, he's near New Orleans. He's in the South. And he normally does lots of sports and WWE stuff. Found the book, and then he ended up reading the porn chapter, but he did it with a Morgan Freeman accent online. Which Morgan Freeman catch a dick was kind of awesome.
Oh man, thank you, the internet. It's a beautiful world we live in.
So it really took off. So I started writing freelance porn, and if you've been on Amazon or anything, there's thousands of these that come out every month. And a lot of publishers just have stables of people who write under pseudonyms, and so they'll send you a 2 or 3 page prompt, and then a month later you turn back a 50,000 word story.
That's so cool.
So all those bodice rippers and the things with Fabio on the cover in the drugstores, I now have a whole slate of those, and they've gone everywhere from historical romances with mail order brides in the 1940s to paranormal. I have a Shapeshifter series, to westerns. I've got ones with cowboys in it and rodeo guys and everything, and it's a lot of fun because they're just kind of silly and over the top, and I now joke with one of my publishers that if they want me to use the word moist in it, they're going to have to pay me double the cost.
It seems to be
Moist
a word that people
trembling
don't
thighs
enjoy.
is so cliche.
Moist.
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 We really like the word moist around here.
We just lost all of our subscribers.
My thoughts are
People hate that word.
moist, and I kind of like it that way.
I'm sorry, listeners. You can just skip. You can just. Well, it's
What?
too late.
What?
Jesselie.
Yes. It's my turn to talk now. I'm sorry, I got derailed. That was. Whew. Okay, so circling back a little bit. So you were working with women and veterans. Or women veterans? No, and.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, and. I'm sorry. Yeah. What did that include exactly? So can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm really interested in that.
Okay, so California has the second largest women veterans population in a state in the country. Texas is the only one with one larger.
Wow.
Women veterans, by percentage, are a small percent of veterans. Right now, they're around 15%. They're projected in the next 10 years to get up to 22% of veterans in total. What happens, though, is when the VA and CalVet survey all veterans about what are your needs, because women are a small percentage, those needs get lost. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you have 15% of your veterans are women, and 10% of those women need a specific service, which is a big chunk for the 15%, in the overall veteran population, it's only about 1.5% need that service, so then it looks unimportant. So we on the needs of women veterans and asked them to fill out a survey. The first survey I did had about 1,000 respondents. We got a fairly representative sample of California women vets, and we found out everything from what do you need in terms of jobs to what prevents you from getting the health care you need to what was your experience with military sexual trauma. And based on that, we came up with a set of policy recommendations that would be useful for women veterans. One of the most successful ones, and one of the things that was picked up by Michelle Obama, was that if you ask a woman, are you a veteran, like on a form or state form or whatever, and you check the box, many of them don't, because people conceive of a veteran as an old white guy who served in Vietnam or Korea or World War II. Right? True. It's not a woman, it's not a guy who's never seen combat. Right. If you ask, have you served in the military, you get a much higher self-identification. And what that allows, by changing that question from are you a veteran to did you serve in the military, you increase the number of people who then can connect with the services that are available to them. And it allows more access to health care. And in California, we have thousands of state benefits for veterans that go unused because people don't identify as a veteran. Things like free access to state parks. Discounts on fishing and hunting licenses, no tuition to CSUs, UCs, and CCCs for children of veterans with any disability rating 0% or above.
Wow. Okay, so you did a lot of different work. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Our dog stage manager, Ein, is telling me that we need to take another break, so we're actually going to do that right now. We're going to hear a little bit from our sponsors.
Hi guys, this is Sean Monkey McEnany, Monkey for short. What you need to know now is that brown chicken, brown cow needs your love. It needs your help, and personally, we could use your money. But short of that, what you need to do is go out and like our Facebook page. Number 2, give us a review on whatever podcast ability you have. Go out to iTunes, go out to Google Play, give us a good review because that helps. Number 3, subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast because that helps our numbers.
helps us with advertisers, helps us with everything. It makes us look good, actually. And number 4, and this is very important, come close to the speaker. It's fantastic. You can go out to Patreon and support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/BCBC Podcast. You can support us at whatever level of support you think you can manage. I don't want you to give us money if you can't do it, but I want you to give us some money and we'll give you back some love as well. We'll give you back some stuff. We'll talk about you on the radio, who knows. But in the end, supporting us helps keep the show going. Subscribing to the podcast gives us better numbers. And liking our Facebook page, guess what? You always know when the show's coming. So, this is Monkey. You're you. We are together. Cuckoo-cuckoo. Fantastic. See you on the next show.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
Welcome back. This is Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. And you're right. I'm the here at the BCBC studios. We have a rather eclectic array of producers and executives and people that just come and go, and they really have an input on the show. Ein is only about a foot tall, but about 2 feet long.
Covered in hair. Slobbers.
And slobbers, but it has great insight into the show, especially with that pitter patter.
Pitter patter.
Really, it's almost like tap dancing. It's a beautiful thing. But so we're back. So anyway,
we're here. Yeah.
We're talking with Rebecca Blanton.
I'm wondering. So we talked a little bit more about your work with women veterans and just your work with women in general during your time with the California Commission on the status of women and girls. I'm wondering how that sort of intersects with your interest in BDSM and Kink. Has one informed your views on the other, or anything of the sort?
Yeah, for me, growing up as a feminist and in kink were kind of hand in hand. I think I was really lucky is I discovered kink at 13.
Nice.
I didn't even know it was called that at 13, but I discovered it. And awesome. By 15, I was aware there was a community, and I started to discover leather dykes, which were awesome. I still have a special place in my heart for them. And at the same time, I was fairly conscious of social issues very, very early on. I started working with people living with HIV and AIDS when I was 12, and eventually went on to run an AIDS foundation in California and stuff.
Again, you haven't done enough with your life.
Right.
I need you to jump on that for me.
So, really aware of how different things intersect, and was part of the gay community in the late 80s, early 90s, which is a very dynamic time for the community. And so it just kind of informed how I saw the world. And in both social justice issues as well as kink, you can talk about power. Who has the power? Who yields the power? What does it mean to yield power and hold power? And how do you do that in a way that works for people and you don't abuse it? It's a lot of the same type of discussion, just one revolves in personal relations and one is much more societal.
Right.
So it gave me a very deep understanding of the concept of power, which is one of the reasons I think I wanted to work in politics. Politics is all around power and who has it, how you yield it, how you wield it, all of that.
Wow. That's
and
beautiful.
Now I do, the big difference between working in politics and writing porn is now I know when I'm going to get screwed and it's consensual.
Nice.
I love that.
Now, you did mention something there that I think a lot of people would like to know, because our audience ranges in age, and it's kind of interesting because we all have a different Genesis story. So where was your origin Genesis story of how you got into kink? You kind of mentioned it there. You said you got into it, but you didn't know what it was.
I was a freshman in high school, and I was dating this guy. He wasn't my first boyfriend. I had had another boyfriend, another girlfriend before that. But I was dating this guy in high school, and he bought me a set of handcuffs.
Nice.
And I discovered, and we used to go out to state parks to go mountain biking.
Oh, that's not what I was expecting you to
I
say.
see air quotes, mountain biking.
Mountain biking.
Right, well, and it was one of those things. Our parents would drop us off at the state park with our bikes, and it was all very wholesome, and then he handcuffed me to trees, and we'd do things in the park. And
That is beautiful.
as you do. And then from there, when I came out to my folks at 14, I had come out to friends and stuff a little earlier, that I was bi. And so from there, I
That's the age I
discovered
came out.
the lesbian community and then leather dykes and on from there. And at 16, instead of going to prom, I went to a gay fundraiser. And as I'm getting ready, my mom comes in and she says, I'm really worried that tonight you're going to meet some older lesbian who will whisk you away on her motorcycle and turn you into a sex slave. And all I can think is, oh my God, yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah. There's a lot of what you just said was really awesome,
Really
Mom.
appealing, actually.
Yes, please.
Maybe I should
let
change my
that
outfit.
happen. So, I discovered it fairly early, and I discovered it at a time where to find somebody, you had to put an ad in the back pages of your local free paper and wait for 2 weeks for it to be published and then get a response and then show up at a bar, and there were little secret codes.
Codes, handshakes,
Whoa.
winks.
All of that.
Wink.
So it's very different now with the internet and as open as it is. But it gave me a very different perspective on kink because, it's been a community I've been part of for 30 years now.
Yeah, wow. That's, as a millennial, that's all over my head.
Oh.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. You're like, wait, newspapers publish, come out, and he's, what? Yeah.
Yes. What is a newspaper? I have not heard
dear.
of such a thing.
And why would you look at it? Yeah.
You're killing me.
Sarcasm.
Uh-huh.
And now your car is a molten mess in the driveway.
Yeah,
That's-
man. This is what happens when I ruin several different industries.
Yeah.
Just out of sheer avocados.
Out of sheer avocados.
I couldn't think of a word, so anyway, wow, that's a really cool origin story. I really like that. So, and then it's become a big part of your life. I kind of love how, for you, the intersection between BDSM, kink, feminism, politics, and sex are all, like, that's a very clear link to you. It's about power and balances and making sure it's all inclusive. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is gorgeous.
And one of the things I've always loved about the kink community is so much of it has been a pushback against the dominant society. So things like beauty standards, cultural standards for how men and women interact, all the taboos that the dominant culture has around sex aren't in the kink community. And for me, that was very freeing and allowed me then to be able to critique the dominant society and look at how they approach consent versus the way the kink community approaches consent, and see some of the major issues that we have that are then fostered by policies and by, the way things are represented in the media and all of that, and allows a pretty decent critique of that.
Right. What we're told we should want versus what we actually want. It seems like the kink community is pretty awesome about exploring what people actually want.
Oh, yeah.
And now that I'm of an age where my friends have gone through their first marriages and divorces and therapy and all of that, in the kink community, it's pretty standard early on to have a conversation of, what do you need in a relationship? What are your soft limits? What are your hard limits? What are your expectations around sex? And in the vanilla community, often that's not part of the conversation. And then you have some issue 4, 5, 6 years into your marriage, and that's what you deal with in therapy. And it's one of those things that I like about the kink community is it brings those conversations to the fore,
Right.
as well as consent. I mean, if you look at your typical model for how we're told women are supposed to behave in relationships, if you look at any romantic comedy, it's, guy and girl meet, there's some interest, and then he turns her off, and then she says no, and he continues to pursue, and she says no a dozen ways, and he keeps pushing, her to accept him, and then they finally kiss and fall into bliss with no conversation.
Yeah.
And that never works. Well, and it's a model for no never means no.
Right. It is.
It's hugely problematic.
Yes, definitely. So you talked a little bit about limits there. A question that I have is, are limits just for bottoms?
No. There's plenty of times limits come into play for a top or a dom. I will service top on occasion, and
Service
have,
top, can you
even though I
tell-
identify as a submissive. If somebody is looking for a certain experience that I'm good at, I have no problem performing that for a friend and stuff.
Right. Well, I want to interject. What is a service top exactly?
So it's somebody who provides the service of topping or doming, but they don't necessarily get the sexual rush from it. It is actually offered as a service.
Wow.
Like you need somebody to knock the cobwebs off, and you need a good, caning or whatever, but you don't have a dom or whatever, you can ask a friend, or another bottom to provide that service of topping you. And I have no problem doing that. I have had a couple of black men ask me to whip them, and it's not something that I can do. It's a limit for me as a top.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody who has their graduate work revolving around race and politics and American history, that's just not something I'm ever going to be okay with. It bothers them, even if somebody else wants it.
Yeah, it's just not something that
that
you're
would be a
personally
limit.
comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good to know your limits that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense. I like that. Good to know your limits regardless of the context.
Yeah.
Now, there's one more thing about Rebecca that we haven't covered at all. It's not on my list.
Not on your list?
Not on my list.
Uh-oh.
I've checked it twice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Something about naughty or nice that blends nicely into this conversation about kink.
Well, it could. I think some of the things she talks about in this certain subject goes into those areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to keep us guessing?
I will. Actually, I'm going to keep us guessing. Shall we do one more little cut? Let's do one more cut, or one more break, one more throw to the sponsors.
Suspense.
Sounds good.
And when we come back, you're going to find out what I'm thinking about. See you in a
I'm
minute.
excited.
Ooh.
Hi guys, it's Sean Monkey Mackany from Brown Chicken Brown Cow. You know what I suggest? I suggest you go to luckybloke.com. Why? Because you can order your condoms online every month. Let's say you have multiple lovers that require different types of condoms, small, medium, large. You don't have to go to the store and buy all these different condoms. You can actually order them from Lucky Bloke. Let's say you have a lover that's latex sensitive. You can get latex-free condoms in that same package with everything else. It is a fantastic program. It is a monthly service. You need to go to luckybloke.com and tell them Monkey sent you. Trust me, they know who I am.
All right, enough of that. Enough of making you wait and try to figure out what I'm talking about.
So suspenseful.
I know.
I have no idea.
Rebecca, have you done stand-up comedy?
I have. I actually, lo and behold, have a surprise show coming up in Sacramento this month. Kenna Cook, who is a sex educator, I think you guys may know her. Sweet, sweet girl is having her Dirty 30 party this month and has asked me to perform with Dirty Lola. So I will be doing stand-up there. And then, I've done it. I still do it occasionally. I've cut back on my performing schedule because I've been sick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do stand-up.
That's fantastic. How long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
2 years now.
Wow, that's pretty good. So you get up pretty regularly on the mic?
Not since I've been really sick, not so much. But I used to do it 3-4 nights a week. Yeah, and so I still try to get back out there and do it when I'm up for it.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, we've been having a great time with you today. There's a lot of information you gave us, and we're going to go ahead and put your bio up on our page when this comes out, and share the links that you gave us so that we can walk through that. And it's going to be fantastic. You've been great. Thank you for coming on the air.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been awesome talking with you, and thanks for all the great advice and resources.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy to talk to you guys. It's been a minute. It's good to reconnect.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And, well, your car is now down to its tires. And that's,
it is.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
That's fine.
We'll get somebody out here to scoop that up for you. And
Cool.
Maybe we can get it in like a couple buckets.
That sounds good.
So
These
that you can
s'mores
take
are
it-
delicious, by the way.
Oh, yeah. They have that delicious scent and taste of burning rubber.
Uh-huh.
And did you have French fries in the backseat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I taste that too. It's fantastic.
Oh, sweet.
So,
And now
Full
you're
circle.
prepared to go hang out in Modesto with that nice tire fire scent on you.
oh, jeez.
Jesus. Yay.
Why not? This has been Sean Monkey Mackany.
And I am Jesselie.
And check us next time. We've had a great time. Please do us a favor. Subscribe, like, go out to YouTube, and subscribe there so that you can catch our video shows because those are amazing. Also, go out to Patreon. Patreon's amazing. You can support us. Or just go to our main page, BCBC.com. You can click on Patreon link there. Or guess what? You can also support us on Amazon now. We have a link there. You can just click on Amazon and go buy your stuff. Don't worry about it. We get a little bit of kickback from Amazon for that.
Absolutely. go find our home addresses, knock on our windows
Wait,
at night,
what?
ask us some questions about the
wait,
podcast, give us some money.
Jesselie, give us some money. I don't mind that one. But I have cameras all the way around my house. They're
Me
not getting
too.
close.
This is
Yeah.
a trap.
There you go.
This is a trap? Oh, jeez.
Just kidding. Don't do that ever. All right.
We're out.
Brown chicken, brown cow. 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 This is fun. Chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken, brown cow.